Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Truth Addicts, where Dina, Joanna, and myself, Stephanie, are just having an informal conversation about the things that we find important for any life, hopefully very much directed at what is truth. And tonight we want to talk to you about something really at the core of absolutely everything, which is the unseen worlds. The title seems maybe a little bit out there, but it is absolutely at the absolute center of every single thing. Okay, so let's start with a question. So, what are the unseen worlds?
Okay, I'll jump in. So when you look, say, at a room or a forest or anything really, a tree, your eyes stop at the physical object. So if you look into this room, you can see the shelves, it's an office, you can see the curtains, but all the space in between those objects is absolutely packed. And that's what we call the unseen worlds. You can't see them, but they're there. And we know they're there because we breathe the air. Do you see the air? No, you don't see the air, but you feel it, you know it, you breathe it. And then there's more subtle things in the air. There's energy. We talk about energy. We talk about atmospheres. So you walk into a room or you walk into a house, you feel the atmosphere. You can kind of get the sense of, is it a happy home or is it not a happy home? Is it full of vibrancy or not? Is it energizing? So when you meet somebody and there's an exchange, there's an energy exchange, which you don't see it, but you feel it because you know whether you are energized by that encounter or not. Mm-hmm. And very often, you know, when you go on a first date, the second date depends on the fact whether people feel energized at the end of it. And if they do, then there probably will be a second date. So energy is everywhere. And so tonight we're going to talk a little bit about what kind of energies are there and how to register, how to feel them, and even how to see them, because actually you can.
So what's coming up in me is that expression about absolutely everything starts from the unseen. It starts in the unseen and then it's manifested into the seen. And there's that wonderful exercise, which actually, Joanna, you've mentioned on here before. I don't remember which one it was, but where you take something, for example, you could take this lime and you could say, okay, well, right now, physically, this lime is here in my hand. Before it was here in my hand, this lime was in my car coming from the grocery store. And before this lime was in my car, it was at the grocery store sitting on a shelf. And before this lime was in the grocery store sitting on the shelf, it was in another car or truck coming from, I don't know if you have lime orchards, but coming from a place where there are lime trees.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And before it was on the truck, it was in somebody's basket. Or maybe it was a machine. I really hate to think that. I'd like to think it was in somebody's basket. And before that, it was actually growing on a tree, soaking up sunshine. And before that, it was a bud. And before that, it was in the unseen. Before that, it was a possibility of a fruit that came from the unseen first. And that's a very powerful thing, because truly that is how everything works. Anything that we do first comes from an idea. It comes from a signal somewhere inside of us that causes us to act. Everything that we see also comes from a signal that then caused it to manifest. And even, I mean, just the very process of birth and how a baby starts from a tiny little egg and a tiny little sperm, and that incredible process of things growing exponentially it's just extraordinary. You can't not imagine that there wouldn't be just a tremendous amount of energy and intelligence. Because I personally have a hard time separating energy and intelligence. I think that all energy has an intelligence. And the way to actually kind of figure that out is to just start to wonder about it and to try things on. And I know there's several things we can talk about tonight, like how to start to train your eyes to see energies, how to train your hands to start to feel energies. And if you take it up and practice and stay with it, what you can start to feel and understand is really quite special.
I think once you realize that we live in a world that is full of energy and that we process energy every single day of our lives, I think it changes one's perception of life, because we become more sensitive to the fact of energy. We become more alert and more interested in the kind of energies that we process, that other people process, and we can actually work to increase our sensitivity. And I think that's a very useful thing to do in safe circumstances, because you don't want to open yourself up to negative energy, but with friends, with yourself, to actually sensitize oneself to the fact of energy and to feeling the different levels of energy, because they definitely do exist. And for me, that was certainly a life changer, to learn about that and to begin to experience it. And so when I was shown, for example, how to use my hands, let's just briefly talk a bit about that. So we have these incredible tools that we never leave home without. Yeah. So we can use those tools to sense energy. And one good way to do that is to bring the fingers together, tuck in the thumb. So it's a bit like if you're trying to drink water from your hands, that doesn't go through the fingers. It's a bit like that. So they're kind of cupped. And so I think the best way to do it, to practice, is to go out into nature and to stand in front of a tree and just approach the tree with the hands up and try and sense what kind of emanation is coming from that tree. And as you practice, you'll probably notice that different trees have different emanations. And you might feel more comfortable, say, with one kind of tree. Maybe it's an oak tree, and maybe another tree not so much. One is a bit hotter or got a kind of prickly sensation, the other not so much. It's really a question of trial and error and just trying, but it is amazing how you can sensitize your hands and learn to sense energy.
So yes, the human can see energy. Just as one can see the heat rise off the radiator in the wintertime, how the heat moves the air, and you can see it. One can see the radiations and the energy of other things moving. And well, the way I was trained to do it was to relax my eyes and to have a long view, as if you were looking past walls into the horizon, And it's something people practice, actually, people that pursue this skill. And some people actually just have eyes that see this way. I heard one lady call it her religious eyes. The things that can be seen are the energy fields around people, the aura. I don't see auras on demand, but I have seen people inside of a kind of shimmering, semi-translucent violet egg with a cone coming up like this. So it was making this shape, but the cone kept going up. And colors. The thing with electrical vision is that sometimes it's hard to gauge distance. So I see colors and shapes, balls, spinning balls. It's funny because you don't know if they're here. Sometimes you can actually feel them, but it's hard to know where they are spatially. And sometimes when people talk, you can see colors radiating off of them. You can see like something called an etheric, which is about this far out. This is one of the easiest things to see, which is the vibrancy or well-being or lack of it of the physical body. Oftentimes it's yellow, but I have seen it different colors, green. When I go to the ballet, oftentimes the prima ballerina radiates a purple, and the other dancers radiate yellow or green. The things of life.
Right.
That's great.
I'll add here a little bit about the color, that the color changes depending on what kind of process the person is in. So clearly, if dancers are on the stage, they're in a certain energy, they're intent, they're trying to remember their steps, they're responding to the music, and they're united. So no, it's not surprising that they might even radiate all the same color, because they're on a certain frequency and they're responding to a certain frequency. So probably depending also on the music. However, if a person is, say, angry, then they might radiate a red color, and then they might calm down and feel at peace with themselves, and it might change to blue. So it kind of changes. So that's good to know, because, you might have heard of Carillion photography, which if you go to like a New Age kind of show, there's usually a booth where they'll take the photograph of your energy field. And what they do is they put your hand on a plate and they pump you full of voltage, which is supposedly not harmful. I wouldn't have done it, but I've certainly seen it done. And then they show you this photograph of your energy field and they interpret it for you. However, that is of the moment. You might walk away from there and everything changes, because you suddenly think of something. You might remember your boyfriend, or you might get worried about your mother, or whatever it is, or somebody steps on your toe, and the color that you're emanating will change, because it's to do with your thinking and your emotions and your instinct. So those are all energies. So we have all those different like centers of energy that we process all the time. And just one other thing I wanted to mention, that if you're going to practice what Dina said, which is exactly right, that you have to look long distance, like you're looking almost through the person, and let your eyes just go long distance, a bit like those ancient Egyptian statues. They have this long view. that it's very good to have subdued lighting, because if you have like neon lights or very bright lights, it's really hard to see. So this is why a candle is good, or very low lighting, or and the best time to see energy is either dawn or dusk, when it's kind of half, the light is dimming, either dimming or brightening, but kind of half light. So if you want to go out and look at trees that way, is a good idea, but do it at dusk, or do it at dawn if you can, because then it's much easier to see energy. And once you see it, you'll become sensitive to it, and it might just change how you think, which is really exciting.
Another thing I'd like to bring up about energy is that, well, we have this word that things are either energizing or they're not energizing. And I think it's really curious that nobody ever thinks about themselves in those terms. Like, what am I thinking that's energizing? Or what am I doing that's energizing? And what am I doing that's depleting me? And so I think that's such a simple process from time to time to cast through your day. And to really think about what energies were you processing through the day, because we know that stress and anger are depleting us. And we know that inspiration makes us feel bright and bubbly. We know that happiness and joy and those moments of care, that moment of generosity and compassion, I mean, those things make you want to fly. I think that there's a tremendous significance to them, but it's so simple and we pass it over. But I think if anybody wanted, I mean, all of these practices are fantastic, but I think that if anyone just took 1 week out of their life and at the end of each day actually thought, what was the energy that I was processing today? And started to kind of make a list and then think about how it felt and where it led you. Because oftentimes the lower energies are only going to lead you towards more low energies. So if you let yourself get frustrated, you let yourself get jealous, it tends to lead towards anger, frustration, just it tends to come back on itself and add more to itself. And when you can find yourself feeling inspired, find yourself feeling full of kindness, full of a bit of like a humanity, or even finding yourself full of a bit of wonder about life and what's next for you personally, what's next for the human being. These kinds of thoughts bring to themselves other new intelligence and more energizing thoughts.
Yes, you might have heard of the practice of, say, getting up in the morning and making a list of what you're grateful for.
Yes.
And although people might not say why they do that, I think one of the great benefits of that exercise, and I do it often, is that it does put you on the wavelength of a higher energy. So it's a good start to the day. And it brings to you a sense of belonging, a sense of being grateful, of course, and wanting to do something good in the world. So I think it's a good start for the day, is to try and bring yourself into a higher energy, and that's your platform for the day, rather than worry. Or so it's good to actually go to bed also not worried, clear out any kind of worries so that you can have a good sleep and then get up and start fresh in that sense of gratitude. Because gratitude is energy, and it's a high energy.
I'm thinking that energies like gratitude and the qualities that we mentioned, for example, when we worked on the quality map, in a previous talk. These energies are lighter in color and brighter in color. Brighter in visual vibrancy and also brighter in how they affect the body. They cause a vibrancy. The finer thoughts, for example, gratitude, care, compassion, understanding another, cause ebullience and beautiful colors, while the coarser thoughts, energies, cause darker colors, the darker end of the spectrum. And they also are more weighty energies. Sometimes even like lead, they can really weigh you down, which is a turn of phrase. Yes. Oh, yes. I wanted to say it's sometimes easier to process darker energy, like irritation, for example, than something a little higher that you might have to reach to, like forgiveness. If one's tired, their energy levels are down, those darker energies are sometimes easier to get to. They kind of can come out of the blue, whereas you might have to choose to reach for a higher energy. There's something significant in that about being human. It's suggesting to me right now that there's a little work to do when one is human. So yes, I have to kind of reach up a little sometimes for the better energy, the better currency for that which makes you rich, you know.
And also, there are scientific experiments to actually confirm what you're saying. So I'm thinking here about the book Messages from Water by Dr. Emoto from Japan. Probably a lot of people know about it, where he photographed crystals of water depending on what kind of energy was radiated into that water. So what kind of thoughts the people who were photographing had deliberately. And things like gratitude and love and peace, they're beautiful crystals. And music too, he tried different music. And things like hatred, and they all came out kind of twisted and not so nice, definitely not so nice. And a friend of mine had, I went into their kitchen and they had all these different bottles with qualities written on them. And the idea was that the water would hold that quality, hold that energy. And whatever you felt like you needed, you could take a drink from that bottle. I thought it was a really lovely idea. I've got a very small kitchen. I haven't done that, but I liked that idea. So you can have the peace water, or you can have the gratitude water, or you can have the love water, or you can have serenity water. Something to again try with, and even see if you say have 3 glasses of water and you radiate different thoughts at the 3 of them, and then taste them. Because, you know, I mean, in my experience, if somebody makes a cup of tea who really values you and likes you and is thinking of you when they're doing it and wants it to be the best tea, it tastes so good. And then the same water, the same leaves, somebody who's thinking about something else and they're just kind of doing it mechanically, doesn't have that taste. It's amazing, but it's true. So that's kind of like the proof that depending on what you think and how you feel, you're going to, you know, like mama's cooking is always best. Because why? Because mama puts her love into it.
Yes.
Because she wants her children to be healthy and to grow and to be happy. And that's in the food.
So tonight we have a story for you, which gives you a good idea about how the unseen worlds work. And it's from the book that we love to share, Tales of the Night Watchman. And it's called The Bell Ringer. Long ago, in a small town in Hungary, lived a man who was given the job of church bell ringer. He was never any good at anything, and the townsfolk didn't know what to do with him. So they offered him the job. Every morning he was to get up at 5 o'clock and set off to the church. He was to climb the ladder and ding dong, wake up the townsfolk at 5:30 to get them off to work. So the bell ringer climbed the tower and rang the bells. He was pleased with himself and thought, that's a job well done. They will all love me now. But in fact, 500 people were reluctantly stirring from sleep, and they knew who to blame. 500 poisonous thoughts were coming at him from 500 minds. They found their target, and oh yes, the bell ringer was dying from the well wishes of everyone. He weighed 15 stone when he first took the job, but within 3 months, he lost almost half of his weight. He felt ill continuously. He was covered with spots and boils. He argued with his wife and no longer liked his children. What a state he was in. Certainly he was not going to be long for this world. So he went to a wise man who looked at him and understood the problem. He told the bell ringer that in waking the townsfolk out of their beautiful sleep early each morning, the first picture in their minds was of the bell ringer, and they would think, you stinker, you foul beast, you dog, I hate you. And this, and that, and the other. The wise man said, look, tomorrow morning, when you ring the bells, shout out back at the townsfolk. Call those people the biggest load of pigs and stinkers and anything else you can lay your tongue to. So he did this, and the man's health improved immediately, and his mind cleared up. He had discovered a great secret. How people think about you can affect you. If you understand what you let into yourself, then you can begin to not be subject to it by equalizing it and turning it away from you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think that's a really good note to end on. So thank you for joining us. And it's goodbye from Stephanie and Dina and myself, Joanna. Till next. Good night.
Bye-bye.